Welcome to the Bespoke Traveler podcast, a space where curious explorers can listen to immersive tales connecting nature, culture, and identity. Come journey with us as we question ideas of home, deepen relationships with place, trouble notions of border, and challenge our perceptions of memory. In this episode of Bespoke Traveler, we return to the practice of sketching. Breaking out of perfection. When I was young, doodling was a way of life. My friends and I filled blank spaces without thinking. We scribbled when we were bored, while we chatted during lunch break, lying on our stomachs in the grass. The world around us was fascinating. Floor tiles, lampshades, doorknobs. Nothing was unworthy of being drawn. Sometimes it began with a simple line, letter, or curve, and blossomed into full fantasies of castles in the air and kingdoms far, far away. In other instances, we traced cartoon characters and superheroes. Eventually, paper and pen or pencil gave way to screens, and our penchant for doodling vanished with the passing years. I haven't thought of sketching since, even as I've returned to keeping journals and recording adventures. I usually just enjoy taking photographs of what I experience on my travels now. I feel awkward attempting to draw, as if I'm entering forbidden territory or stepping on someone else's path. That changed once I encountered Antoni Gaudí's work in Barcelona, Spain. Somehow, only taking photos didn't seem to do the architectural landscape justice. I wanted to be a part of what I was seeing in a way I couldn't accomplish through the camera lens. So, feeling truly awkward, I scrunched up in a tiny corner of a bench in Park Güell and began to shakily emulate the sinuous lines and curves of Gaudí's terraces and vaulted columns. At first, all I could think of was how unqualified I was to attempt capturing the complex mosaic work, the modeled stone, the gingerbread texture pavilions. I was no artist. All my strokes wobbled. They flew off from where my eye wanted them to be. They thickened where they should have been narrow, furrowed where they needed to be smooth. I worried that someone would look over my shoulder and criticize my endeavor, or laugh at my effort. Shame and self-consciousness filled each contour I drew and colored the page. I gave up. But Gaudí's compositions persisted in captivating my desire to encapsulate them in illustrations. My fingers itched to return to doodling. At Casa Mila, I stood across the street and tried to sketch its serpentine undulations. My version of this modernist vision looked something like a constipated pumpkin. Highly unsatisfactory. I recapitulated, shooting 1,000 different angles of the facade instead. I bought tickets for the interior, where I strove to emulate the asymmetric infinite loop of the courtyard, the parabolic arches of the attic, the twisted splendor of the chimneys. Reviewing them later at a cafe, I wondered if my pen had developed a mind of its own. Disappointed, I stared at my wine. Perhaps I could start with something very simple, the goblet in front of me. I took my time, simplified my strokes. It turned up cockeyed but recognizable. Looking around the vibrant bistro and adjoining alley, I began to notice all sorts of objects to render. Time passed while I sat there for hours, drawing, paying attention to the minutest details of everyday things in a city I'd never known. I'd like to say suddenly that afternoon my artistic talents improved, but I'd be lying. But I did stop worrying as much about making mistakes. It became a little less important with each picture that it looked like the real thing, or even anywhere close to what I'd imagined. No one cared that my rectangles continued to look pregnant, or that my chairs could walk off the page on their own. Turns out Gaudí was a bit of a perfectionist too, incessantly seeking to imitate the intricacies of nature as geometric designs, refining over and over each element in his configurations, something I came to appreciate as I rendered them onto paper. However, his most revered masterpiece is one he never finished, the Sagrada Familia. In this cathedral of hyperbolic paraboloids, helicoids, and generatrix, I really had to let go of any ideals of achieving excellence. The scale was too grand for me to even encapsulate properly. Aquamarines, ceruleans, corals, ambers, and tangerines kaleidoscope with riotous abandon. Sometimes I realized it's all about sipping minor portions rather than gulping up the whole. I focused on the enormous girth of the tree-like columns, the starburst spans creating the ceiling, the effect of watching a sunset filter through the western stained glass, the tessellated stone comprising the snail-shelled spiral staircase. Months later, years, I look back over my efforts to portray bits of Barcelona and appreciate the ways in which sketching really bakes places, faces, and objects into my memory. There was the bench where I tasted churros dipped in chocolate, the doorknob that caught my eye as I was heading to Las Ramblas, studying pigeons from a sidewalk table. Each vignette both brought back particulars of an experience while showing me a little of myself in the lines represented on the page. How I pictured the world through blues and greens, which rooftops, ceilings, windows, and doors inspired me. When I got tired as the day progressed. None of it is perfect, but all of it is an expression of my ever-altering osmotic self. A return to improvising has set ideas free because I see how mistakes I've made while drawing. Some of them are beautiful, and all of them have become learning points. Bespoke Traveler Note: have you ever wanted to return to something you loved doing? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for listening. Breaking Out of Perfection was written, narrated, and produced by Atri Gupta. For more, head to the website at bespoketraveler.com.